Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for joining me and for your support, engagement, and feedback. My name is Shweta. I'm the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We're a coaching practice that helps healthcare professionals from English as a second language background become collaborative, impactful, influential, and empathetic communicators for better ratings and reviews and connections with patients. So as part of my monthly interview series, given that we have been talking a lot this month about the concept of curiosity, I thought we would bring an expert in the field of curiosity for you today. So please welcome Julie Pham. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Lovely. Would you mind just introducing to our audience who you are and what you do in the space of communication?
Yes. So I have my own company called Curiosity Base. I founded that in 2021. We help people practice curiosity in the world, starting in the workplace. We work with organizations who invest in relationship building at work and who want to become learning organizations.
Mm-hmm. So, do you just work specifically with organizations, or do you
Yes,
work with
I don't work with individuals. We don't do
individuals?
individual coaching. Well, actually, there's actually been a little change. We just started this new series where we have these mini workshops that are open to individual registration,
Mhm.
but for the most part, we work with organizations.
Brilliant. And what kind of organizations make up your clientele?
Mostly government, actually,
Okay.
government and nonprofits. And then
Mhm.
there are some finance and real estate.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, even though I spent 9 years in the tech industry, I don't have that many tech clients.
Interesting.
Mm.
What about anyone in healthcare? Have you ever encountered that in the past?
Not so much in healthcare. We've had individuals who are interested, but we haven't actually worked with a healthcare client.
Okay, excellent. So, let's just get started with the questions. What got you curious about curiosity? Pun intended.
Yes, yes. So in 2017, I started a cross-sector collaboration fellowship bringing together people from tech, government, and community-based organizations. It was a
Mhm.
6-month program. The idea was to bring together people across difference. And by the third cohort, I realized that some people were really striving or really thriving, and some people really struggling. And
Mhm.
we tried to understand what's the difference? Why are some people really struggling and why are some people thriving? And identified it as curiosity.
Okay.
And so the people who were really thriving were just, wow, look at what we're learning. I had no idea. We created something out of nothing. And the people who were really struggling were fixated on achieving a particular outcome and going to a particular plan. And
Mhm.
they were not having fun. They were really struggling. And what we saw was on any given team, if you had a critical mass of people who were curious, because we
Mhm.
identified it as curiosity, it could uplift the morale of the
Mhm.
team. And the inverse was true. If you had a critical mass of people who were just focused on achieving a particular outcome, it could actually take down the morale because we saw that there were just people who were watching and waiting
Okay.
to see who the loudest voices were going to be. And
Mhm.
so that could shift the morale of the team. And that's why I decided to focus on curiosity and start to get so curious about curiosity to see how it could help teams because I actually think curiosity leads to empathy,
Mhm.
innovation, collaboration, connection, resourcefulness.
Mhm. Can you just expand on that a little bit more? So, first of all, what would you define as curiosity, and how does it enhance these other factors that you just spoke about?
Yeah, so I think of curiosity as a practice. A lot of people, when they talk about curiosity, they think of it as a trait. It's either something you have or you don't have, that
Mhm.
wanting to learn. I think of it as a practice, and it's something that we do and sometimes we don't want to do. And this practice boils down to three elements. The
Mhm.
first element is self-awareness. The
Mhm.
second element is relationship building, and the third is clear communication. So let me go back through each of those. First, self-awareness. That's inward curiosity. How do I get curious about myself? How do I ask myself questions? It has to start with that. The second is relationship building. So, Shweta, how do I ask you questions and you tell me stories about your life and I tell you stories about me and then you
Mhm.
react to that and that back and forth that's inward and outward.
Mhm.
And that creates this reciprocity, that creates that relationship building. And the third element is clear communication. So, how do I listen to understand?
Mhm.
How do I ask questions when I don't understand? And
Mhm.
how do I be specific with my examples and stories? And so when we describe curiosity as a practice that has these different elements, it's less it's less ambiguous. It's just,
Mhm.
oh, here are some parts, and maybe I'm better at certain ones than others. A lot of people think of curiosity as just outward curiosity. Oh, I want to learn. I want to learn. But we have to also think of it, I got to learn about me too.
Yes, yes. And then, what is the relationship between curiosity and empathy and connection and communication?
So for empathy, it's trying to understand where is that other person coming from so I can try to put myself in their shoes to try to understand to empathize with them to deeply understand them. In terms of the communication, actually the core what's absolutely necessary for curiosity is to listen.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Is to listen and to also listen to ourselves too, huh?
Hmm.
As I'm having this conversation, other thoughts are coming up. So I have to also listen to my inner voices
Hmm.
as well. And so I actually think of curiosity as the start of all of those other ones.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, I do sort of resonate with you very well on that because one of the things I talk about a lot on my brand and my coaching is to listen actively. And I think sometimes I think curiosity has to go beyond just asking questions because that's what people think being curious is, just asking questions. It also there's a lot of other elements to it. So what would you say is a big other major element that makes you a more curious person?
That makes me a more curious
Oh,
person, or
any.
that makes it just anyway. It's so well, actually, is admitting when we're not curious.
Okay. All right.
So because I think that actually has the self-awareness part.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So even just being able to pause and say, hey, you know what? It's really difficult for me to practice curiosity right now because I'm feeling
Okay.
all of these emotions and I've got to pause.
Mm-hmm.
And so that actually under that then appreciates, huh, it's a practice. And
Mm-hmm.
right now I'm not able to practice it.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes self-awareness.
Yes. Yeah, and also
So
admitting to yourself that you're not going to always get everything right. You're only human, and
yes.
everyone has flaws, and no one's perfect. And it's absolutely okay to admit that, whether no matter what walk of life you're in. So
And
I
so
think,
in terms of that learning is just even being able to, so I hear a lot of leaders say, hey, we want to have curiosity. And yet do they model making mistakes in front of other people? Do they
mm-hmm,
model taking risk? Do
mm-hmm,
they model talking about their failures? Because if they don't, then it's going to be really clear why other people don't feel it's safe to learn.
yes. And I think also the element of accountability becomes really vital in situations like
Mhm.
this. I think we welcome that in a lot of times. That if someone has, say, doesn't know about something, or they have made a mistake, or they've made an error, be it an honest or unconscious one, somehow admitting that can really sort of it can be quite prevalent in certain cultures too. But I think
Mhm.
it can really be sometimes people can think that, oh, this is too embarrassing. I think I'm going to lose face or something like that.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, that's what actually makes you human. I think that's what people, there has to be that they look for nowadays to connect better. They want to connect with humans, not just the person who's behind the accolades and behind the profession and whatever else like that.
Yeah,
So,
and I think for curiosity, we have to let go of perfectionism.
of course, yeah. And what would you say is the role of vulnerability in
Mm.
curiosity?
Well, like we were just talking about, to be able to admit that I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know how to do this. I've had people, sometimes people come to me and says, Julie, hey, what's next? What do we do? And I say, I don't know. What do you think? And and I had to learn that from other leaders who did it to me. They would say,
Hmm.
well, I would go to them, how do we do this? And like, Julie, I don't know. What do you think? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
what? You're asking me? And to not know what the future is, and that's okay. That can actually feel pretty vulnerable.
Mm.
You know, I think vulnerability, sometimes people think of it as, oh, we're going to talk about our shame and our trauma. No, it could actually just be, I don't know, or I'm going to talk about a mistake I made, or I'm going to learn in public. Right now,
Mm.
I've got to try this and
Mm.
experiment with this, and I got to practice it in front of someone.
Sure.
And so, I mean, for me, I'm sure for you too, we're so busy. There's no way I'm going to stay up late at night rehearsing something to absolute perfection. Just, you know
Yes.
what? This is going to be good enough. And then we go, and people
Mm.
see that. And that
Hmm.
means that it signals to others that it's good enough.
Yes, yeah. And I think as long as you are the crux of your messaging, the crux of what you're saying is coming across. I think all the other, because I think especially when you're making videos and all that, I think people get very fixated on editing and the correct lighting and everything like that. And people have to be able to hear you and see you, obviously. But I think people put too much emphasis on, and also, they tend to script a lot of things as well. And
Mhm.
I admit sometimes I do have in my scripts that make up a part of my videos, but I do improvise them on the spot. Actually, like
Mhm.
I'm doing with you right now, even though I sent you a list of questions in advance, I'm just making them up as we go along, and you're just rolling with the punches, and I love it.
Mhm.
So, just in terms of the framework that you implement to help your clients cultivate curiosity and communicate better with their teams and their subordinates and everything. What is your approach and what is your structure and system behind it?
So when we start, I will ask, I like to use polling a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll ask, uh, what is lacking? I'll pull what is lacking among your colleagues. And then I
Mm-hmm.
have those different elements of practice and curiosity, which is that self-reflection, building relationships, listening to understand, asking questions when we don't, sharing stories. And then I ask, what is lacking for you?
Mm-hmm.
And these are both check all that apply questions. And so what that does is it shows right away, what do you think about your coworkers versus what you think about yourself? And that in itself is a self-awareness question. Because
Okay.
oftentimes what we see is people say, my coworkers don't listen well, but I
Okay.
don't have that problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have that problem. So think about that. How is it that everyone's saying their coworkers don't listen that well, and yet people don't say they don't have that problem? There's a disconnect there,
Yes.
right? And so in any case, what we try to do is we show people how to break it down into these different elements, and then we ask them to 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 share, hey, this is what I think is happening here. And then we
Mhm.
can start a conversation. And then I can zoom in on what are the areas that we need to focus on. Because that could be different for different organizations.
Sure. Sure.
Mhm.
And then after that, what sort of exercises and what kind of workshops do you run?
Mhm.
And what is the end product that you know that the organization or the team has become much more curious?
Mhm. So I'll take one of our really popular ones is called "What does success mean to you?"
Mm-hmm.
And so in that we will ask people to share who in your life, what experiences have influenced how you think about success.
Mm-hmm.
And so just think about that for you. I mean, what is it for you? If you were
Yes.
to answer that question.
Me,
Yeah.
well, for me, it's the way that I have been conditioned to view success and the way that I see success is completely different.
Mhm.
For me, it could be simple things. It's not just like a couple of words. It could
Mhm.
be things like fulfillment, purpose, and
Mhm.
health, and connection, and financial, a life free of financial worries. So, and
Mhm.
impact and legacy. So it's
Mhm.
not just one element; it's just many different elements that go into
Yeah. And then the question of the who in your life, right? Was it your parents?
it.
Was it
Mm-hmm.
your teacher? Was it your first boss? And sometimes we have oh yeah, they told me what I saw, I don't want to do that, right?
Yes.
You can have a negative example. In any case, that's that first part where that is forcing self-reflection and
Mm-hmm.
inward curiosity, right? Because I have to answer that for myself. And a lot of times people have never asked themselves that question of where it came from. They just think,
Yes.
well, I need these things, but how did I come to believe that?
Yep.
And then how do other people come to believe that? And so that's the relationship building I was telling you about. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
ask myself these questions, then I'm going to ask someone else, and then I'm going to share my story with them. And then we just try to, so if it's working with a team, we try to identify, okay, well, what do you think success looks like on this team? What does it feel like? Because that with that particular module, it's what does it look like and what does it feel like? What's tangible? What's intangible? And then we'll compare. And so my work is really
Mm-hmm.
surfacing what people are thinking and then
Mm-hmm.
showing the parts where it's just, ooh, let's dig in a little bit here.
Yes.
And then we also give them all of that information at the end so that they can continue that work on their by themselves because I'm not there to solve and write a plan for them.
Yes.
I'm there to shake things up
Hmm.
and so that they can think about it and come back to it.
Yeah. I think you're planting the seeds really. And I think
Hmm.
that you're planting the seed for curiosity. And I think the more they ask questions and the more they reflect on themselves, it just
Hmm.
enhances the process. So it sort of becomes like a ripple effect. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it as if you go to an exercise class and you do some moves that you've never done before, you're like, oh, this I didn't know that I could do this or I can't do this,
Mm.
and you're aware in a new way. And you
Yeah.
also see, oh, different people are having different experiences with this dance class, and
Hmm.
then we can work on this together by ourselves. We don't always need the instructor there.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think nowadays, because technology is so prevalent and there's obviously social media, so we have information right at our fingertips. Speaking of exercise classes, so at the moment, I'm tossing up between whether should I, continue with yoga or should I do reformer Pilates. And all I had to do was instead of getting to the root of it or experimenting with both types of classes, which I've been doing anyway, which one should I continue? And all I did was just went on social media and I'm getting like a ton of responses. So whilst it has not solved my problem in any way, and nor has it made me curious, it's just loaded me with information. So I think my question would be, do you believe that technology and social media ruin curiosity or enhance it? And if it does ruin it, how can it be used to our advantage?
So I think it does both. So
Okay.
I think I'll say the ruin part, the ruin or the bad part, which is the personalization that happens with the algorithms. So I'm
Hmm.
just going into this echo chamber because the things I click on, I'm getting more of that.
Yes.
And so I think that my what I'm seeing on social media is the world. And I don't realize, no, that's just the world that because I clicked on certain things
Yep.
and liked certain things that that social media is delivering that. So that's
Hmm.
how it's bad. I think where it's good is the speed.
Yes.
Now it's just, oh, I mean, I I find myself a lot more I'm really interested in biographies. And so I
Hmm.
find myself looking up the biographies of people who I normally wouldn't look up because I'm reading an article. Oh, well, this
Hmm.
person. So I look that person up. And I find myself going in these different pathways that normally I wouldn't
Hmm.
explore because
Hmm.
of the speed and the ease with which I'm able to do it. So it helps and it hurts.
Okay. And but how can we use social media to our advantage, uh, whilst remaining curious, but also a valuable tool in actually enhancing it or maintaining it?
I mean, I think just poking around because even I've looked at your videos and just, oh, here's this and here's this. And so that exploration. So I guess there's the user and then
Hmm.
there's the me consuming it and then there's me actively sharing things. And
Yes.
so I guess I'm thinking about it in terms of how, if I consume social media, how can that aid curiosity? If I am the one who's actually posting the videos or posting the the post, and then I
Hmm.
can invite people in and invite engagement. And then it's interesting actually how the different voices that I can hear. That does require quite a bit of work though. So it kind of
Mm.
depends on if that's how you want to, if that's where you want to have that engagement.
Fair enough. And just, I know you mentioned that you have not had a healthcare client before, but just from your perspective, because you're the expert in this space, not me, how can healthcare professionals enhance the power of curiosity to communicate, collaborate, and connect better with their patients? I've made videos about this, but I just want to get your thoughts on
You know what? I forgot. I actually keynoted at a health
it. Oh, did you?
health and well-being conference I did. And so um and And so the things that I heard is just how much pressure healthcare professionals are under right now.
100%.
Actually, suicide rate is really high for physicians. It really surprised me
Hmm.
about that. And I've heard from people it's because they want to help their patients so much, and they're under so much pressure. And also sometimes people get mad at the messenger.
Hmm.
And so they get bad messages from, and there's so many surveys that are happening where it's just, oh, I don't like the diagnosis, so that means I don't like the doctor. So I
Hmm.
think that healthcare professionals are under a lot of pressure right now.
Yes.
And so I think in terms of the how curiosity can help them is to ground them in because all the healthcare professionals I talk to, they're not doing it for the money.
Yes.
They're doing it because they care.
Mm-hmm.
And to take that pause and to remember that this person, this patient who's in front of me and who's taking this really bad news or who's really scared,
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a lot of power as a healthcare professional. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I think healthcare professionals, because they're under so much pressure, they can forget that patients just want to feel heard.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They just want to feel heard. And so actually, in just managing is just asking some questions that show that they care about their lives and that they're listening and taking that extra bit of time
Mm-hmm.
also means, hey, I don't need to come up with the magic solution. I'm
Yes.
just trying to figure out the different uh I'm trying to understand and whatever I prescribe might not be the right thing. It's just what I know based on what I'm hearing right now. And and that can also allow for sometimes if you feel, oh, I'm being too nosy or whatever. Actually, remember the patients want you to be.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
They they want, because they really generally they trust healthcare practitioners. And so just remembering at the end of the day, patients are they they tr generally trust healthcare practitioners and they want to feel cared for and
Mm-hmm.
listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, it's pretty much most of what I kind of talk about on my coaching and on in my videos anyway. So it's really good that we have sort of aligned two of them together. And so in the future, what sort of work on this concept of curiosity based are you planning or hoping to do in the future?
Yeah, so we'll continue the work around this curiosity as a practice. Actually, just last year we introduced a new workshop on how do we break down this practice. It's actually aligned with my TEDx talk, Curiosity as a Practice. And then we'll
Mm-hmm.
continue to evolve the work of 7 forms of respect, which is how do we get curious about respect? And that's in the workplace and understanding that respect can look different to different people. We can agree on how respect feels.
Mm-hmm.
We can disagree on how it looks.
Yes, and again, I did quote your work on respect in some of my videos as well. So, yeah, there's a lot to explore there. Yeah, if you, I will include the link to your tech talk in the description, and as well as that, the other keynote. I'm not sure if you have it. I'm
That
happy.
one wasn't recorded, but it was actually pretty similar to the TEDx talk.
Okay, all right. So I'll definitely include that because that is on YouTube. And apart from LinkedIn, where else can people find you?
Well, I have a bit of a presence on Instagram, although I'm really most active on LinkedIn and also YouTube. I do a
Okay,
bunch of small videos, and so you can find me on YouTube as well.
okay, awesome. And is it just curiosity based, or is there another
Yeah,
sort of
it's
handle?
just curiosity based. Yes.
Okay,
And then
awesome.
on LinkedIn, it's Julie Pham PhD or curiosity based as our company page.
Definitely. I will definitely be including all of that in the description. Julie, thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise and experience and your knowledge with us today. I'm sure people will get a lot out of it. For everyone else watching or listening, make sure that you hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and like this video if you share us like, and leave us some feedback on what has got you curious about what we spoke about in this video. And as always, thank you very much for your time, attention, presence, support, and engagement. And I will see you next week.